Hey guys, welcome to Average Gun Review. This is your host Facade. Today we're going to be looking at the Glock 17 Generation 3. As every video, I like to show you the gun is empty and safe. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome to Average Gun Review. This is your host Facade, and you may notice this video is a little different than any of the videos done so far. I apologize for not having a video out last week, but I was out of town and came back and planned on working on one, and I started working on this one, which is for the Glock 17. Specifically, I'm going to be taking apart the Glock 17 Gen 3 in the background, and doing a review of it. It's chambered in 9mm with a 17 round magazine, standard. So it's 17 plus 1. You have the internal trigger safety. Other than that, no external safety on the Glock. As you can tell, this one's going to be a little bit different because it's the first episode in which I'm showing my face instead of just seeing my hands where I'm taking apart the gun. I decided to go this route because I wanted to make a little bit of a longer video, and in the future, very near future, the beginning of next month, I'll be joining a gun range. So I'll be doing some video of me shooting and showing you some of the actions of the guns and showing you some of the patterns that I'm getting. I'm not the best shot in the world. I don't claim to be. I don't even claim to be a professional shooter. I'm just an avid gun enthusiast, and I have an assortment of guns in my personal collection and some that I have borrowed from colleagues, friends, family members, etc., that I'll be using for the purposes of making these videos. With that in mind, today we're going to be talking about the Glock 17, as I mentioned, and in the background I'll be taking it apart. Should be switching kind of back and forth between my face and me talking to you now and the actual taking down of the gun itself, which is going to be a trend in all the videos. In every video I end up doing, I plan on breaking apart the gun at least to the point of getting a good cleaning out of it. I do a few revolvers that I'll be putting up maybe next video or the video after very shortly. I don't do any takedown of the revolvers just because there's not much to take down. Other than completely disassembling them, taking apart the trigger assembly, which I'm capable of doing. It's just, A, they weren't my guns, and then B, there was no need to do that because there's nothing wrong with them, and they didn't need cleaning. So, in general, most of the pistols and or rifles that I'll be taking apart, they probably either belong to me or a family member or friend. And I'm generally doing it because it's a little easier and it's easy to get some video time out of. With that in mind, I wanted to do this video a little differently and add a little bit of history, and I plan on doing that with a little bit of each of the guns that I review in the future. So hopefully you enjoy this style and format a little bit better. And if you do, please like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you a dime, and hopefully this channel will grow, and that will allow me to review more guns in the future and get my hands on more firearms in the future, to just give you a little bit of their history, a little bit of how they feel, how they shoot, and my opinion on them. I really appreciate it. So without further ado, Glock 17. It is the full-size 9mm Glock. Originally produced in Austria in 1985. Glock opened their headquarters for the United States production in Smyrna, Georgia, and since then it has been the most assigned weapon to law enforcement and government agencies in the United States. At one point in time, about 65% of federal, local, and state agencies had been issued a Glock pistol. I'm not saying they all carry them now. I know my local police department does carry Glock, but I know there's a couple towns over that carry SIG, mainly because SIG is made not terribly far from where I live. With that in mind, there's also Springfield rather close as well. If that puts you together, I'm somewhere between New Hampshire and Massachusetts. Springfield, Mass, and SIG is up in New Hampshire, so with that in mind, Glock has been around since the 60s. They started making the first Glock pistols in the 1980s. The Glock 17 was one of their first. It's a full size, even though there's a lot of guns that are very much larger than this, considering like the Desert Eagle in the 1911. But with the polymer frame, you have a lot lighter gun. Typically with the polymer frame, I believe the official weight, according to Glock, with the Glock 17 is about 22.5 ounces, empty without a magazine. With a loaded magazine, that goes up to over 2 pounds, but that's still nothing compared to like a 1911's weight. And with that in mind, the Gen 3, which is the generation that I'm reviewing in the background, is primarily one of the most sought after. Mainly because it seems like that's when they started getting their ducks in a row. It was 1988 when they introduced Gen 2. And then the Gen 3 started, I believe it was 98, sorry, I apologize. And the Gen 3 started in 98. That was the standard until Gen 4, which was in 2009. And then the current generation is Generation 5, which was 2017. That is the current generation. They've made some changes since then. So there's the Gen 5, which is, they also have the crossover series, which is like the 19X. They have the MOS series, which is the modular optic sight slides. So it's the cutout on the top of the slide. You'll notice this gun doesn't have one, but for things like an integrated red dot. Glock celebrated their 40th year anniversary in 2018. They produce a massive number of guns. The Glock 17 is a awesome piece. There's a reason that it was assigned to so many federal, local, and state police and law enforcement officials. Is because it's incredibly durable. You can stress test, you can shoot thousands and thousands of rounds, and it's just gonna work. Unlike some of your more, and I don't like to use this term to degrade Glock because I am a fan, but unlike some of the more refined pistols, the Glock has a lot of wiggle room. You can hear parts shaking if you hold it up to your head. If you shake it back and forth, you can rotate it a little bit on its polymer frame. It's just not pieced together like some of the tighter guns, and because of it, you don't clean it nearly as often, and you don't lubricate it as much as some of your higher end weapons. And that's very intentional. You get a little bit of sand, a little bit of dust, a little bit of dirt in some of the very, very tight tolerance firearms. They jam up on you. The Glock is just not that way. It is often described as a big ugly brick that continues to work, and I agree. It's not the prettiest gun I've ever seen. It's not designed to be in a beauty competition. I think there are some beautiful firearms out there. I think there's way better looking guns than the Glock. I think there are probably undoubtedly more accurate guns than the Glock. There are bells and whistles you can do to it and add on to it, but at the end of the day, it has been torture tested probably more than any other gun. It's known as being the reliable gun. There are videos of people completely putting them in blocks of ice. There are videos of people shooting them with another Glock, shooting them out of that block of ice, throwing the whole gun in a furnace, dropping it out of helicopters, throwing it in mud, throwing it in dirt, throwing it in dust. I mean, just anything you can imagine to put it through. And essentially, as long as you have a clean barrel and the gun's not, completely snapped, it's gonna work. There's even a torture test video with a Glock 18, which is the fully automatic version of the Glock 17. Same size, full-size slide. Just the full auto sear on the back. Online, where a guy goes through magazines until he melts the polymer frame. And even then, he could take a piece of pliers and pull the trigger from the inside and make it fire. It's a reliable gun. Who's it for? I mean, if you're looking for a full-size reliable gun, anyone. As long as you're familiar with guns, you don't need that external safety, or that's not one of your major concerns or desires, or an external hammer. Highly recommended. to anyone. Now, I will say that I personally prefer the size of the 19 to the 17. That's just in general, and I think between the two of them, they shoot about the same. I do a review of a Glock 19 as well. I've shot both of them thousands of times in my lifetime, and I will say that both the the Glock 17 and the Glock 19 fire flawlessly. They just don't quit. It's easy to throw some optics on there, such as night sights. If you get the MOS version and the Gen 5, you can get red dots and plates that go on there. Really nice, easy to kind of trick out. There are lots and lots of gadgets that you can throw on them, from anything from trigger assemblies and night sights and hollow sights to the Roni, which is the full insert that kind of makes it look like a carbine. Now, with all that in mind, I'm probably not going to hold on to this one. I don't know if you've noticed in the video, but this actually isn't a Glock lower. This has been a SCM lower that's been put on this, and I bought it used. I don't know what happened to the original one. Doesn't really matter. It works and functions just like the Glock. As you noticed, I have some aftermarket magazines. I'm going to replace the magazine with an original Glock 17 magazine, which again is 17 rounds. And probably end up trading or selling it. It's not that I have anything against it, it's just that I don't have another need for it, and I have other guns that I'd prefer to shoot. I have the 43X, which is my daily carry, and I would say that this one's probably not going to get much action time, especially when I have access to other firearms. However, it is a good gun, brand new right now. You can pick them up. I was just browsing some of the more popular places to buy guns new. $500 for the Glock 17. You could probably pick one up and use cheaper. I will say, as far as downsides, so a quick list of positives and negatives. Positives are, with the longer barrel than the 19, you have slightly better accuracy, you have a light polymer gun that is just virtually indestructible, you have one of the most issued guns in the United States. Downsides, I actually prefer the Glock 19 size to the Glock 17. It's a little bit smaller. You can add the additional rounds with that magazine if you don't mind it sticking out a little bit. I don't think those 2 rounds matter too much to most people, and if they do, by all means pick up the 17 instead. And then the last thing being the trigger pull. On Glock's website and everybody else is now kind of doing the how many newtons it takes to pull triggers, which is a weird thing instead of just telling you how much it is. But Glock's official website says that the Glock 17 is 28 newtons. If you convert that to pounds per square inch, it's 6.29 or 6.3. So it's a 6.3 pound trigger pull system, which is a little much. However, you do have that a little bit of release from your trigger brake, which is kind of nice. It cuts it down a little bit for you, makes your second shot a little more accurate and a little more stable. But I think it's a little high out of the box, honestly. Something closer to like a 5.5 pound or a 5 pound trigger pull for most pistols is kind of a sweet spot for most people. It makes it so it doesn't feel by any means dangerous to have, because there's no way you're going to accidentally pull the trigger with 5 pounds, but it's also not going to make you pull your shots a little more because you're anticipating such a long and hard trigger pull. So those are the pros and cons. I will say, for the price point, if you're looking for an indestructible gun, something you could throw in a vehicle or a bug out bag that you just don't have to care about or put effort into, Glock is undoubtedly the way to go. If you're looking for something that's high end and smooth as silk and doesn't rattle or make noises that you want to, put up on a wall, not for you. It's not what you're looking for. Anyways, if you guys enjoy these videos, like I said, please do leave a like, and more importantly, subscribe. I mean, likes are nice, they help the algorithm, and they help put this to other people, but please subscribe. It doesn't cost a dime to do. It allows me to put out more videos, and it lets me know that you're enjoying it. I hope you enjoyed this content, and I will see you guys next week.